Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
A wintry blast of rain and snow brings warnings for BC's sea to sky region.
The slush was quite significant all the way through Whistler down to Brome Lake.
Plus, amid tense international relations and trade tensions with the U.S., BC's premier looks to India to explore new opportunities.
So we've got to ensure we're as independent as possible from the U.S. right now.
And a fascinating show from a pod of orcas, what their very unique behavior means.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Baneet Braich. A wet and snowy blast of winter weather is hitting the sea to sky region. That's created a messy day on the roads. Lana Kelly has more details on the warnings and advisories.
A stretch of Highway 99 turns into a slick, slippery, slushy mess.
The slush was quite significant all the way through Whistler.
Vehicles sent sliding, including this driver.
As soon as we started coming down the hill, I saw a semi-truck that had jackknifed, and it was sitting in the oncoming lane.
Ryan Johnson commutes from Squamish to Whistler.
And for some reason, it did not have the chains on. Truckers should be fined for not having the chains on.
Dylan Morgan was commuting the other way from Pemberton to Squamish.
This has been the most significant slush and snow this season.
There are many weather concerns in the sea to sky region, including a snowfall warning.
We're forecasting 15 to 25 centimeters in the Brandywine area. Weather can change rapidly, especially when traveling in the mountains.
There's high avalanche danger in the backcountry.
Encountering a large storm, so heavy precip amounts and strong winds in the Alpine. So our current danger rating for today is high in the Alpine, high at tree line.
There's also a travel advisory for a stretch of the Sea to Sky Highway until Tuesday evening, calling for snow and winter conditions.
And we're seeing very slippery and slushy conditions. In some places, we're seeing larger vehicles having problems getting up the roadway.
Police are advising that mud and snow tires won't cut it.
The most important thing is to have the appropriate tires for the weather conditions, which is we're recommending winter tires.
Drivers should be prepared and pack an emergency bag should this section of highway get shut down.
Pack extra warm clothes, pack extra warm boots, have some extra food, water on hand, get your toques, your gloves, blankets. Make sure, here's a big one, just make sure your vehicle is adequately fueled.
More snow is expected on a Friday, and after that storm passes, temperatures are expected to rise with double digits possible in valley bottoms. Elena Kelly, CBC News, Squamish.
The Lower Mainland's cold, soggy weather means a lot of snow is piling up at those higher elevations, as we just saw. But check out this time lapse of Mount Seymour's live webcam showing its so-called stochometer. Up to 74 centimeters of snow is expected to fall over the next 2 days. Cypress Mountain is expecting up to 67 centimeters, and Grouse Mountain Resort should see about 43 centimeters. Darius Madavi joins us now with a first look at the weather. Darius, what more is all this snow and rain bringing us?
Well, a lot of happy skiers and snowboarders, I would imagine, but also quite a lot of difficult travel along the mountain passes. We had a frontal system sweep through today across the south coast. It's continuing to move through the southern interior. That's causing some snowfall warnings to be put in place for a number of those mountain passes. So, for instance, the Coquihalla, 30 centimeters of snow expected today with some flurries lingering into tomorrow. Highway 1 from Rogers Pass to Eagle Pass, 15 to 25 centimeters. Very similar on Highway 3 around Kootenay Pass. So a number of places to be watching out for in terms of travel, as well the far eastern area of the province, Elk Valley, also under a snowfall warning. We had a rainfall warning in Metro Vancouver earlier today, but that has since dropped. It wasn't a very severe one, 30 to 50 millimeters from south to north in Metro Vancouver. So, of course, less in Richmond, Delta, more up on the North Shore. But a fair amount of precipitation. We may start to see some snow as we get into tomorrow at places like SFU because We may see some heavier precipitation at times and those lower freezing levels, but temperatures will rebound later into the week. So be ready for that. Potential for a little bit of snow sticking, but hopefully nothing too intense. Over in the valley as well, it is a possibility. So a number of things to be watching, Baneet, as we see this precipitation continue.
All right, thank you, Darius. We will check back in with you in a bit.
Sounds good.
And in another effort to reduce reliance on the U.S., Premier David Eby is heading to India on a trade mission this week. Now, this trip comes as U.S. military action in Venezuela has seemed to bolster Alberta's calls for a new pipeline to BC's coast. Katie DeRosa brings us more on that.
We will be leaving shortly this week for a trade mission to India.
During the 6-day trip, Premier David Eby and Jobs Minister Ravi Kalan will visit New Delhi, Mumbai, Chandigarh and Bangalore, known as India's Silicon Valley. BC's efforts to diversify trade away from our southern neighbor took on new urgency over the weekend, following the American raid in Venezuela and capture of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Eby says Maduro ran a tyrannical regime, but
I'm sure find it deeply unsettling to have Donald Trump deciding unilaterally for regime change in different countries and saber rattling towards Greenland and Mexico.
While planning for the trade mission to India was already underway, Eby says the events in Venezuela underlined the urgent need to reduce our reliance on the U.S. A former NDP MLA and MP who was born in India says the trade mission is long overdue.
When your main partner next door to you keeps kicking you in the teeth, then you look to other partners.
Since the attack, Trump has not been shy about his hopes to take control of Venezuela's oil industry. That's also raising alarm bells for Alberta's vast oil reserves. Canada provides about 60% of the U.S.'s crude oil imports.
Venezuela, if it gets its production back online, the type of oil that it produces is direct competition for Canada.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre both say the recent events in Venezuela intensify the race to approve a new pipeline to the Pacific coast to reach overseas markets. For his part, Eby reiterated that there's still no private sector proponent for another pipeline, and Alberta should first look at increasing capacity in the existing Trans Mountain pipeline. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
After a controversial 3 years, the BC government's drug decriminalization pilot project is set to end January 31st. Premier David Eby admits that the original plan did not work, but it's unclear what changes will come after that deadline. Now, in April 2024, the province amended the rules and recriminalized drug use in public spaces. The change came after months of pressure over public safety and disorder concerns.
But let me be clear, we are not going back to the old policy of decriminalized public drug use in British Columbia. It didn't work, and we ended that.
As for what's next, the Premier says they are in close conversation with the federal government, and more information will be released soon. The race is heating up to replace Conservative leader John Rustad. Entering the race today is a former candidate for the party and high-profile business leader Yuri Fulmer. Justin McElroy has more on what he's promising and some of the challenges that he faces.
The BC Conservative leadership race is off and running, or at least ambling down a West Vancouver beach.
No British Columbian wants to leave this. Right? Nobody wants to leave. You leave because you have to, because the opportunity's not here.
Yuri Fulmer is the first major contender to announce their candidacy for the leadership of BC's official opposition party. A West Vancouver businessman who ran and lost as a party candidate in the 2024 election, Fulmer says he's more than a stereotypical stuffed shirt.
When I started in business, there was no stuffy shirt. I was behind the counter at an A&W with 8 other employees wearing a very polyester uniform, making a lot of teen burgers all day long.
An immigrant from Australia, Fulmer grew his A&W businesses across the province and says he's entering the fray because he wants future generations to have the same opportunities he did.
I was able to buy a home, I was able to buy a car, I was able to start a family. You know, those things aren't available to British Columbians anymore.
The Conservative Party came within a few seats of forming government last election under John Rustad, but has since been dogged with infighting and debates on what the party should focus on moving forward.
We have focused on culture war issues, and at the same time, we have a group of MLAs, and there's a part of the base that wants to focus on fiscal issues. I really fundamentally believe we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Though Fulmer seems to want to focus on the fiscal issues. When asked if he would speak up on culture war issues like sex ed curriculums or freedom of speech, his answer was fairly clear.
It's not about my agenda, it's about the agenda the British Columbians tell me is important to them. And really what I hear from them is it's about affordability, it's about healthcare, it's about public safety, and it's about the economy. And those are the things I'm going to focus on.
Will that resonate with enough Conservative voters? A number of other people are considering candidacies, including MLAs Peter Milabar and Harman Bangu, former Conservative MPs Carrie Lynn Findlay and Ian Black, and Independent Contractors and Businesses Association President Chris Gardner. While they wait for the leadership rules and timeline to be decided before committing one way or the other, Fulmer gets a chance to stake his position in the race.
I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to bring the skills that I've spent 30 years building in this beautiful province to serve the province.
And see if his message generates momentum. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
The emergency department at the hospital in 100 Mile House has reopened following a 10-hour closure due to staffing shortages. That shutdown started on Monday at 7 a.m. and ended at 5 p.m. The Interior Health Authority had previously announced a shutdown on Friday, also due to staffing issues. That closure lasted 13 hours until staffing was secured. Now, last year, the ER recorded more than 24 temporary closures. Patients were told to divert an hour north to Williams Lake. Police have made an arrest following an investigation into a suspicious death in Greater Victoria. Saanich police say the death happened in a home on Blair Avenue on Monday, in a residential area about a block away from the Shelbourne-Mackenzie intersection. They haven't provided any information about the suspect, but they believe this was an isolated incident. The region's major crime unit has taken over the investigation. A 35-year-old woman has pleaded guilty to 6 counts of assault following a series of stabbings in Vancouver's Yaletown neighborhood last October. Tamara Hamlin is charged with 4 counts of assault with a weapon and 2 counts of assault. She was arrested on October 10th after 3 people were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Then, 2 days later, police say 4 more victims came forward, including another stabbing victim. The BC Prosecution Service says Hamlin pleaded guilty to all charges on December 16th. Her sentencing date is set for March 31st. A new health act is set to come into effect in BC this April. It outlines regulations for practitioners like RMTs and chiropractors. As Pinky Wong reports, some are worried about how this could impact patients and practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine.
Dozens rallied in Vancouver, emphasizing the need to continue regulating the prescription of traditional Chinese medicine.
If a regular person takes too many ginseng, it could be risky for their health. So that's why we do need a prescription for all the Chinese medicine.
We think of like herbs as not being that potent, but they can be, especially if people take them in large quantities and take them a lot.
They may take wrong medicine. Then they will say the Chinese medicine not safe because wrong people use it.
Currently, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners and acupuncturists are regulated under the College of Complementary Health Professionals of BC. The college says regulated professionals exclusively use reserved titles like Doctor of TCM or TCM practitioner. Their current act is set to be replaced on April 1st with the new Health Professions and Occupations Act. Health Minister Josie Osborne is stressing there will not be deregulation of TCM.
Before, the old regulation does list some activities that are explicitly restricted. The new regulation takes a different approach. And so the wording shows what a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner can do under their scope of practice.
She says TCM is a valued profession in BC.
It is still, and never was, legal for somebody who is not a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner to call themselves that or to undertake the activity of diagnosing and prescribing. That has not changed.
She says she is working with the college and practitioners and considering additional changes to make things more clear. Pinky Wong, CBC News, Vancouver.
This was a treat to see. Who knew even orcas love a belly rub? Take a moment, take a look at the moment, just capturing some very unique behavior. That's coming up next. A group of lucky people got to ring in the new year with a wildlife encounter on the Sunshine Coast. A pod of orcas were seen engaged in a unique behavior. CBC's Alana Kelly reports.
Feet from the shore and just below the surface. A pod of orcas dazzle onlookers off the Sunshine Coast.
I looked over and one's just coming straight down the beach line, like about 5 feet off the shore, just with its fin out of the water.
For 20 minutes, they went back and forth, rubbing their bodies on the rocks.
I picked my jaw up off the ground, but it was once in a lifetime type of stuff.
These are northern resident killer whales.
It's always individuals of the A5 pod that utilize the rubbing beaches on the Sunshine Coast. And there's 3 different families in that pod.
They are quite selective on where they do this.
The pebbles on the beach have to be just right for northern resident killer whales to want to rub there. Killer whales have very active skin, so their skin is sloughing all the time. Rubbing their bodies on rocks, like these smooth pebbles, it may help them expedite that exfoliation.
This behavior is unique just to them.
Amongst all the different killer whale populations around the world, there's only a couple that have been observed doing this behavior. So it's very specialized, it's very unique. It's not that common, and so it's very cool to see and record when it does happen.
A handful of people got to experience the pod party thanks to a local Facebook group.
Whenever somebody sees whales, they can post it, and then everybody in the community will have a chance to see these magnificent creatures, and it's just taken on a life of its own.
She's sharing Sunshine Coast sightings with everyone.
Just to see the community like loving this and getting so excited about it.
A day he's sure to remember.
I'm probably the world's #1 orca fan, so this is a big deal for me for sure.
And ringing in the new year with a splash. Elena Kelly, CBC News, Squamish.
A lawsuit filed in BC Supreme Court alleges that 3 men misappropriated more than $500,000 in tips from a local restaurant. The civil suit involves Denny's workers in Kamloops. Our Chad Poston spoke with Jessica Chung earlier today.
Now, restaurants use electronic systems to collect tips that are paid electronically, debit cards, credit cards, that sort of thing. In November, Denny's in Kamloops just did an audit of that system to see what was going on, and it found $11,000 had been illicitly moved out of that system between 2 employees through some kind of scheme, and now in about a span of a month. Now, well, the 2 employees were confronted, and they told the employer, according to the claim, that they were actually copying another employee's method of doing this exact thing. So another audit of these allegations was done, and the restaurant found more than $494,000 had been misappropriated in the span of 2 years by another individuals. Now, the claim doesn't share a lot of information about how the scheme actually worked. Essentially, for the $11,000 one, so an $11,000 one and a $494,000 one, the smaller one, the two employees, one used codes to get into the system, transferred the money to the other employee, the claim alleges, and then that person e-transfers some of the money back to the original employee. So that's sort of how it worked as far as we know, and Denny's calling it out in a civil claim, trying to get some of this money back.
Yeah, wow, okay, so then what has the response been from the defendants in the suit?
Yeah, so we're not naming the 3 men named in the suit, and the reason for that right now is because they haven't responded to it in any fashion. We're still trying to confirm that they've actually been served with it. And we want to hear from them and their lawyers. We've not been able to contact another them. So got to remember, none of these allegations have been proven in court. A response to the claim has not been filed. The civil suit from Denny says, listen, these men unjustly enriched themselves through this, what they did, that is unlawful. Denny's wants to get the money back. Kamloops RCMP is confirming they're also investigating the allegations, so maybe criminal charges could come out of this. In the meantime, the situation is bringing up, are these tip systems safe? Are they ripe for abuse?
More than 24 countries, including Canada, have agreed to provide defense guarantees for Ukraine. That's if a peace deal is reached with Russia. But another issue hung over the leaders' meeting in Paris. Murray Brewster explains.
A low-key beginning to a high-stakes day. Prime Minister Mark Carney breakfasting with French President Emmanuel Macron. A gathering aimed at giving Ukraine concrete security commitments ahead of possible peace talks with Russia. But U.S. military action in Venezuela and the notion Greenland, a territory of Denmark, a NATO country, might be up next, cast a long shadow.
We stand with Denmark, we stand with Greenland. Our closest partnership is with the United States, and we'll work with everybody to make sure that we move forward together.
Several European coalition countries, including France, the UK, Germany, and Spain, released a joint statement today saying Greenland's future belongs to the people of Greenland. The show of solidarity for Greenland comes amid stark warnings from Denmark to take Donald Trump's threats seriously. If the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, said the Danish Prime Minister, including NATO. A sobering message as Carney met with the Secretary General of NATO, and later with Denmark, where the Danish media has only one question.
What happens if Trump tries to annex Greenland?
Increasing the concern, Trump advisor Stephen Miller is refusing to rule out U.S. military action in Greenland.
Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
When asked about those remarks, Carney suggested NATO would stand strong, noting Canada's foreign minister will be making a trip to Greenland in February.
As NATO, we can provide security for all of NATO, Greenland included. And as the threat environment is changing, we're making the investments in order to do that.
The U.S. envoy to Ukraine, Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner took part in today's conference and likely got an earful. In the end, it was messy, but Ukraine got the security guarantees it was looking for. How robust and enforceable they might be remains to be seen. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Paris.
U.S. President Donald Trump is doubling down on his threat to acquire Greenland. It comes just days after his administration staged an incursion in Venezuela and captured its leader to face drug trafficking charges in New York. This is all prompting fears both around the world and in the U.S. Katie Nicholson now with those details.
The White House statement is likely only to further inflame the worries in Denmark and its self-governing territory, Greenland. It says President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. The president and his team are discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal, and of course, utilizing U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. That from the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. Remember, it was just last night that Trump's deputy chief of staff, Stephen Miller, suggested no one would fight the U.S. for the territory. Some in Congress are expressing concern about this new wave of expansionist language and messaging from the Trump administration. Earlier today, before this White House statement came out, Republican Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky weighed in on the operation in Venezuela and his concerns about statements from the administration that the U.S. will run that country and take its oil.
Imagine if you're an opponent of Maduro, you're pro-American, today you're holding up an American flag saying, thank God we got rid of the dictator and this is a good thing. But then in the next minute they tell you that America now, it won't be the dictator Maduro in charge, now America will be in charge of your oil. I can see how this will destroy goodwill in Venezuela, the same way in Greenland and Canada it's destroyed goodwill. The whole idea that Canada will become a 51st state has destroyed goodwill.
Paul says the U.S. needs to be more careful and respectful in the way it treats the world. And earlier today, we also heard from Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who was trying to frame the U.S.'s intentions around Greenland for reporters and use more diplomatic language.
I'm not saying we're going to go take over Greenland. I'm saying we're going to build up our military presence, and we need to create a new relationship between the United States and Greenland to make sure our investment is secure.
At the same time, across the Senate floor, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego is seizing on this moment to introduce an amendment to a defense spending bill that would prohibit the use of funds for any military force or hostilities against Greenland. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
So how was the United States able to pull off the capture of Venezuela's president? Well, CBC's Andrew Chang, host of About That, looked at the legal arguments that U.S. lawyers might make to justify the method used to get Maduro into a U.S. courtroom.
Did the U.S. military just kidnap Nicolas Maduro?
U.S. President Donald Trump says the American military has captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife.
Maduro said that he was kidnapped from his home in Caracas.
Kidnap is a loaded word because it implies illegality. Maybe a more neutral way of describing Maduro's capture is as an abduction. But the U.S. government calls it an arrest.
It's largely a law enforcement function. This was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice.
And just to be clear, this isn't some nerdy question about semantics. It's a question about law and whether the U.S. has the legal right to extract world leaders from their homes, and maybe even whether other countries might have that right too. Let me explain. If there's something that feels off to you about one country unilaterally claiming the authority to waltz into another and then put their leader in cuffs, it's probably because your perspective is rooted in international law. Article 2, subsection 4 of the UN Charter is pretty clear. All members shall refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. Okay, so the UN, whose membership includes both the United States and Venezuela, and virtually every country on Earth, it forbids its members from breaching each other's sovereignty by force, or even threatening to do so.
The consensus after the Second World War was that the way to prevent the Third World War was to ban completely the use of armed force among states to resolve their disputes.
At the Nuremberg trials after the Second World War, it was an American prosecutor, in fact, who argued that the crime of aggression, one country against another, was the supreme international crime, that to start an aggressive war has the moral qualities of the worst of crimes. Not to say that the US is starting a war here, or that even if it were, there aren't exceptions that allow it.
The only 2 circumstances would be the exercise of the right to self-defense. The second circumstance is where the Security Council has made a determination, for example, of the threat to international peace and collective security, or the existence of an act of aggression, or a threat to peace.
But here's the thing. The U.S. most certainly did not have Venezuela's consent to abduct its leader. It also didn't have the permission of the UN Security Council. Self-defense? That's trickier.
In order to be able to exercise that, you have to be subject to an armed attack, and your use of force would have to be necessary and proportionate. But the United States, over the last 20 years, have put in place various attempts to expand the scope of self-defense.
Venezuela is not the conduit for the drugs coming to the United States. Venezuela accounts for about 5% of the cocaine trafficking trade, but the majority of that goes to Europe. So the justification for this as a kind of a self-defense war on drugs defense is non-existent or painfully thin.
The U.S. has argued Nicolas Maduro is the head of a narco-terrorism operation, and that the illicit drugs funneled through Venezuela amount to a weapon
of mass destruction.
Weapon of mass destruction.
Weapon of mass destruction.
We're formally classifying fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction.
This could be the beginning of a self-defense argument, that the breach of Venezuela's borders, killing reportedly at least 40 people, and capturing Venezuela's president are merely parts of a preemptive strike to prevent the loss of American life. And maybe what fuels this defense is that Venezuelan troops reportedly shot back, which begins to touch on what is perhaps the most important legal argument, at least for the US, that the domestic legal rationale of self-defense and pursuing Maduro, even beyond international borders, trumps everything. Part of what makes the legality of Maduro's arrest so confusing is that we're really talking about two types of law. There's international law, and then there's US domestic law. It was very telling to hear Secretary of State Marco Rubio say this in an interview with ABC News.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
Put simply, U.S. law is what grants U.S. law enforcement the right to do what it does, which is to arrest people. And there is a years-long legal case that has been built up against Nicolas Maduro. As we can see in this brand new unsealed indictment, he's facing 4 counts: conspiracy charges related to narco-terrorism and the importation of cocaine to the United States, as well as 2 charges related to the possession of machine guns and destructive devices. The indictment accuses Maduro of having partnered with some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world, that he allows cocaine-fueled corruption to flourish for his own benefit, that he and his inner circle provided law enforcement cover and logistical support for the transport of cocaine through Venezuela, and that he and his wife ordered kidnappings, beatings, and murders against those who owed them drug money or otherwise undermined their drug trafficking operation. The US government considers Maduro a fugitive of American justice. There's been a bounty for his capture, $25 million under the Biden administration, and then doubled to $50 million under Trump's. And there is precedent for the US military helping to execute these kinds of arrests abroad.
Thousands of American troops are tonight holding key positions in Panama after launching an attack early this morning to oust the dictator General Noriega.
The U.S. invasion of Panama in 1989 had some similarities to what we're seeing in Venezuela. The dictator running the country at the time, General Manuel Noriega, he was under indictment in the U.S. for drug-related charges. Ultimately, he was brought to the U.S., tried and convicted, spent decades behind bars. And leading up to the U.S. invasion, which set this whole series of events in motion, this legal opinion from within the U.S. Justice Department on whether international law forbids the U.S. president from authorizing forcible abductions. The conclusion? We do not believe that it does, and that the text of Article 2, subsection 4 of the UN Charter does not prohibit extraterritorial law enforcement activities. So this isn't war, said the United States then, and may very well say now. It's just making an arrest. At the end of the day, what the Trump administration argues is that it is following its own set of rules, and that international law doesn't apply here. But even if it did, consider once more the case of General Noriega of Panama. After the US invasion, the UN General Assembly voted 75-20 to condemn it as a flagrant violation of international law and the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of states. A majority of the UN Security Council also voted to condemn it. But where did that resolution go? It was vetoed by the United States, which, as a permanent member, has that authority. So, thinking beyond this one operation in Venezuela,
we're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
The question really is, how much coercion is legal? And for those other world leaders watching and following Trump's example, what stops them from asking the same?
After a dismal year for sales, we speak to a Vancouver realtor on the new year and what it brings for both sellers and buyers. That's next.
The weather update is brought to you by the BC Cancer Foundation. The future of cancer care can be your legacy. Fuel innovation and life-saving treatments by leaving a gift in your will today.
Darius Mahdavi is back with another look at the weather. Darius, we've had snow and rain that's led to lots of slush in parts of BC. What's coming up?
Well, we got some more snow on the way for some of the mountain passes. That frontal system that brought precipitation here on the south coast is continuing to move through the south. That means about 30 centimeters of snow for the Coquihalla, 15 to 25 centimeters for parts of Highway 1 and Highway 3, especially around Kootenay Pass for Highway 3, and then some more snow coming to the southeast as well. We looked at these alerts earlier, but I just wanted to emphasize that this is going to make travel difficult right through the day tomorrow. And we will likely see some more precipitation start to come through later in the week, Thursday and Friday, but it will likely be lighter and the freezing levels will be coming up. So probably less snow in some of these areas. Now, avalanche danger is also very high or relatively high in many parts of the province. Nowhere do we have low avalanche danger, and especially here on the south coast where we're pretty happy about getting a lot of snowfall on a lot of the mountains. People are heading out. Please be careful in avalanche terrain. Take a look. This map is from avalanche.ca. It's the best place to go. And you can see at each different level of the mountain what the avalanche danger is, because it does vary a lot depending on whether you're in the alpine or down below the tree line. And you can also see what those conditions are looking like for the next 3 days as well. So this is just for today and tomorrow, but you can also look ahead. So great resource to have, even if you're just going, snowshoeing up in the local mountains. In terms of temperatures, like I said, those are starting to fluctuate quite a bit over the next few days. Up in the northeast, we're quite a bit warmer than normal, especially in the Peace region. Temperatures do drop a little bit into the next couple days, especially on Thursday. We see the big dip go down closer to the seasonal, which is -10, but then temperatures start to rebound as we get into Friday, and that is also the case down here in the south. Temperatures in the southern interior reaching about 6 or 7 degrees, quite a bit normal than the normal, which is about the freezing mark. And here on the coast as well, temperatures come up a few degrees, down up closer to the double digits, although most places not quite getting there. In terms of that precipitation that we're seeing, again, a fair amount does continue to come in, but it does continue to lighten up. Not like that heavy rain we saw today here on the coast. More snow comes to some of the mountains, but no really big dumps like we've seen. And then most of that precipitation later in the week is concentrated on the north and central coast rather than here on the south coast. Snowfall totals will be relatively high in a lot of areas, but nothing too crazy. No snow expected down at the sea level down here in Vancouver, down at downtown or anything like that, but SFU is possible tomorrow. Fair amount of sunshine comes to the interior tomorrow. And here's our 5-day forecast, which has a fair amount of, well, a lot of cloud, a lot more rain. Apparently I missed all the blue sky being in Ontario, Baneet. That makes me very sad.
There you go. Well, at least some good news for people hitting the slopes. Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
Home sales in 2025 plunged to a 20-year low, even with prices trending downwards. The only thing on the upward swing, inventory and lots of places for sale. So what does 2026 bring for the real estate in the Lower Mainland? We are joined by Oleg Galyuk. He's a realtor in Vancouver. Oleg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First off, I want to start by asking you, looking back at the year, how bad was it?
It was a tough year. It was a historic year in a sense. I think between what we have seen in terms of new construction and the challenges there, as well as the avalanche of inventory that we have experienced, and buyers still being hesitant to enter the market, it's been a real tough year from different aspects.
And so for anyone who's now trying to sell a property today, what would be your top tips for them?
The number one tip is to be realistic with your pricing, because this is not the market to test out your prices. You have to be sharp, and you don't want to get into the loop of chasing the market down, meaning having to gradually reduce the prices to where the current pricing is at. The second part to add to that would be also to be flexible, not only with your pricing, but also with your dates and with the sort of accommodations that you can provide for the buyers.
And then for anyone who is trying to get into the market, maybe buy their first home, what are your top tips for that?
I think the first-time home buyers are especially feeling the advantage in this market. Usually in Vancouver, first-time home buyers and investors are competing for similar properties, one bedroom, and then type of units. Over the last year or so, we have seen a lot of investors exit the market, which means that first-time home buyers especially have very low competition. On top of that, there is quite a bit of choices available in the market. So I would recommend for the first-time home buyers to really take your time. There is no pressure at the moment for the prices to go up, and also no pressure to rush into purchasing. And that is really a good position to be in.
Finally, we understand that it's also been a real tough year for the real estate industry with projects that have been canceled, foreclosures, and much more. I'm curious, as a realtor, what are you hearing from your colleagues in terms of the personal hardships that they've been facing?
Yes, I think it's been a really trial by fire sort of a year for a lot of the real estate industry, as you mentioned, including the pre-sale industry specifically. I hear a lot of projects are getting canceled. They're simply not able to sell out enough units in order to secure construction financing. I also hear about a lot of future projects being postponed. Perhaps they're not ready to start selling yet, but they're sort of in the planning stages. And just because of the way the real estate market is right now with the slowdown, but also with the pricing, it's not profitable for them to even think about building with the current market conditions.
And just reflecting on the year ahead, what are you kind of looking to here? What do you think are good opportunities for people to consider?
Yes, I think at the moment there is this sentiment and a little bit of a waiting game that's happening between the buyers and the sellers. You would assume with such extreme market conditions, the slowest market conditions that we have seen in the last 20 years, plus record high inventory levels, you would assume the prices would be crashing, the prices would be dropping at extreme pace. But at the moment, they haven't really dropped all that drastically, 5.3% between condos and detached properties. So it would be really interesting to keep an eye on the pricing moving forward into 2026 and to see whether this drop in pricing is going to attract more buyers into the market and whether the sellers are willing to reduce the prices further to attract more buyers.
Well, that again is Oleg Galyuk, a realtor in Vancouver. Oleg, thank you so much. The leader in electric vehicles has lost its crown, why Tesla has fallen behind, and why a Chinese maker has taken its place. That's next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
CBC is a proud partner of the UBC Lunar New Year celebration on February 12th. It's a special evening with CBC's Leanne Young celebrating the Year of the Horse. For more information, visit alumni.ubc.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC's e-newsletter and keep connected with us.
The price of Tesla, now the world's second largest electric vehicle company, slid today, down more than 4%.
CBC's Nisha Patel looks at how its Chinese rival is pulling ahead, even though you can't get their cars here.
Tesla's stock is sliding after losing its spot as the world's best-selling electric car maker to Chinese company BYD for the first time ever. BYD says it sold 2.3 million battery-powered cars globally in 2025. Tesla sold 1.6 million, slipping 9% from the year before.
Part of that has been the removal of consumer subsidies in both the United States and Canada. Part of it has been reputational damage from Elon Musk.
BYD's sales are surging in Latin America, Australia, and the UK. The company is able to produce some of the cheapest EVs, thanks to low labor costs and huge government support.
The Chinese market, of about 31 million cars a year, is bigger than the North American and European markets combined. This gives BYD and other Chinese manufacturers enormous economies of scale.
BYD models aren't available for sale in Canada after Ottawa and Washington imposed a 100% tariff on all Chinese-made EVs in 2024. Automakers say that's necessary to protect the budding EV industry here and the substantial government investment to support it.
I don't think there's a way at this point in time where Canadian production of EVs could be competitive in that regard.
But Canada's icier relations with the U.S. could ease trade barriers with China. Beijing has floated lifting its duties on Canadian canola if Canada scrapped its EV tariffs. Ottawa is reviewing the tariffs, but it's not clear when a decision might be reached.
That would be a good move to allow some of the Chinese manufacturers in, because we need to get more mass market adoption of EVs. And part of that movement for more mass market adoption is a lower upfront sticker price.
That would open the door for more affordable options for consumers and rev up Canada's sluggish electric car market. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Big question mark if we can see those in the future. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. The investment they've put into those cars is really something. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, YouTube, and our website.
And I will have your next local news at 11 o'clock. That's coming up right after the National. Have yourselves a good night.